Okay, Mike, if you could start off by saying your name and what your current vocation or avocation is.
My name is Mike South. I'm currently the president of the National Black Lung Association.
And can you spell your name?
Mikesouth.
Okay. What I'd like to start with maybe is just some personal history in terms of your mining experience and whatever you'd like to tell us about that.
Okay, I started mining in August of 1970. This was after the Black Lung Act was put into effect, which was in March of 1970. As we all know, it was signed in 1969, but it didn't take effect until March of 70. So I started in August of 1970. I was hired in as a track man. I worked approximately 7 years laying track. I worked as a wireman helper after that. I spent 3 months on the tipple as a picking table helper, and my last job was an outside carpenter. I worked 11 and a half years total.
Why did you quit after 11 years?
I had severe breathing problems. It was attributed, the first doctor I saw told me I had asthma and emphysema. So we weren't satisfied with that diagnosis, so my wife had set up an appointment with Dr. Rasmussen for black lung testing. That was in September of '81 that I was diagnosed with asthma. In December of '81, I went for the testing to Dr. Rasmussen in Beckley. During the testing, they would sit me down and cover me up with a blanket and keep asking me, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" You know, and I thought, "Yeah, I'm fine. You know, you're just mother henning me to death here." But come to find out, after the procedure and the testing, when Dr. Rasmussen was removing the catheter from my wrist, he told me I was in terrible shape. I was 35 at the time, and he said, "You qualify for everything." He sent me from there directly over to the Southern West Virginia Clinic to another doctor, S.L. Bimbacher, who examined me and told me to come back in January of '82, because this was in December of '81. In January of '82, Dr. Bimbacher told me that that was it, that I was totally disabled and I should go ahead and apply for my benefits. So that kind of floored me at the time. Here I was, a young man, 35 years old, with 2 small children and a wife. And what was I going to do for income? Luckily, I had been a veteran. So I applied for VA benefits and received them post-haste. And that sustained us until we got something going. And I also had insurance from where I'd worked at the mines, which covered me for a year. So that helped also, as far as medical was concerned. So after that time frame, it took me 20 months to obtain my Social Security disability benefits. And it took me 7 years to obtain my black lung benefits, which was a long, drawn-out process. As anyone knows, you sent from hearing to hearing and doctor to doctor. I think I'd gone to 7 different doctors, and everyone had confirmed that I was totally disabled, but they would not pinpoint pneumoconiosis as the cause. They would state emphysema, which I do have. I'm not, trying to evade the issue. But one concern with most doctors was the emphysema was so severe that it could be masking the pneumoconiosis. So after 7 years, I was finally awarded benefits. But I must say that when I went before the ALJ, I do believe because of my age, had I not been on oxygen, I would not have received my benefits.
So you needed something physical to convince them.
Yeah, I think so. But I need to kind of rest here for a minute.
Let's take a break for a moment. Anytime, yeah. And just one second. Lynn, let's keep the mic on the hair of the edge for a tight. That or a little tighter is good. don't go quite as far. Anytime.
Mike, I know that you weren't involved in the early movement, the Black Lung movement, and even though you have since become very much involved, but do you have any recollections or from talking to people about it, have a sense of what was going on?
Yeah, well, in a roundabout way, yeah. Some people that my father-in-law worked with were actually involved with the movement in some of the first meetings they had at City Hall in Montgomery. Lonnie Sturgill was one of those people, and my father-in-law was his buddy in the mines. They worked together. So he's recalled some of the stories about it, yeah. And from what I hear, I'm sorry, but the union was not behind the movement when it first started. It was mostly from meetings with Black Lung Association members and the three doctors, you know, i.e. Buff, Howie Wells, and Dr. Rasmussen, who went around with their speech to the miners about what coal dust and things were doing to their lungs and how there should be legislation to improve their situation. I'm sorry about this.
No problem.
I'm not on what I should be on, so that's not helping any. Okay. Where was I?
Well, you're talking about that period. Did your father-in-law go Wildcat? Was he on the Wildcat?
Yeah. He actually went to several of the meetings at the where they held in City Hall in Montgomery. So, as you know, the Wildcat strikes and Ken Heckler championing the legislation for the miners in the legislature in Charleston. What else you need?
So, I think what I'd like you to do is talk about how you got involved, you know, kind of look into the future, how you got involved with the Black Lung movement to the point now where you're the president of the
Okay, my first involvement with the Black Lung Association was in 1992. I was going to the New River Health Center, which I still attend as a patient. And John Klein, who was a benefits counselor there, tried to get me involved with the Black Lung Association there. This was in '89 when I first went there, and I think that chapter started in '88. But from '89 when I first went to '92, I didn't have any involvement at all. You know, they would keep asking me to come to some of the meetings and, you know, see what's going on, and you might, you know, get involved with it. So I never thought anything about it. And one day when I was sitting around the house, I'd written a letter, not so much a letter, but a statement of how Black Lung affected me and my family. And the current legislation at that time was H.R. 1632, I believe. And what they could do, you know, to help miners in my condition and their families if this bill were only to pass. So that statement was written up and submitted by Bob Wise to Congress, and it was submitted into the Congressional Record. Okay, that was a little boost right there saying, hey, you know, somebody took notice here, and, you know, little old me got a little bit of recognition. So from that, I became more involved. And at the chapter in Scarborough, I started, I draw and sketch, as you know. And I started designing T-shirts, and I actually designed the banner for the National Black Lung Association. So that got me more interested and more involved. And I got more into the politics of the whole aspect of it, you know, from our frequent visits to Washington trying to lobby for legislation. So I was more intrigued about how the system worked and what we could possibly do to enhance our position in that political arena. I want to stop again.
left off when you
In '92.
designed the banner and started to get involved in the political aspects.
Okay. All right, and then in '92, we were trying, like I said, for legislation to improve the aspect of obtaining benefits easier for the minors. That failed. So we tried again in '93, '94. That also failed. We tried, both times we tried, we got the bill through the House, but both times it failed in the Senate. So we were really discouraged, as you know we should be. And we were trying to see where we might go from there, which avenue to travel, since we'd failed with legislation twice. And that was in a Democratic-controlled Congress. Now we had to deal with a Republican-controlled Congress, which made it even more difficult. So with the help of J. Davitt McAteer, we had gotten a meeting with Secretary of Labor at that time, Robert Reich. And Davitt had told us many times that maybe we should pursue the administrative end of this and try to get things done administratively through the Department of Labor, which might help us in our efforts to make the benefits requirements a little less stringent, even the playing field. So with Davitt's help, we acquired access to Secretary Reich and gave him the proposed changes that we would like to see. I think this was in 95, 96. I'm sorry about the lack of O2, kind of impairs my thinking. But anyway, we met with Secretary Reich, and they came about with some proposals that were sent down. And those came about, I believe, in January of '97. January the 22nd of '97, actually. And the comment period was ended after an extension for the coal companies in August 21st of '97. Now, nothing has come of those proposals to this date. We were informed after a meeting with Secretary of Labor Herman that there was a possibility that these may be sifted out and put again on the Federal Register for comment period again. Now, the last word we had was that the proposals were at the OMB and that there would be at least a 90-day period for that. After they were released from OMB, they would be republished on the Federal Register again for comments. So that's where we are at this point, waiting to see when and if they're going to be republished. And if so, we would hope that some would benefit the minors. We've been advised that one stipulation that was in the other regulations has been eliminated. So hopefully, that was a stumbling block for not only the industry, but also the miners too. Coal operators, everyone concerned, did not care for that aspect. And we were told that that would be eliminated from these new proposals if and when they come out on the Federal Register. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay.
Go ahead.
Well, what do we want to talk on here now?
Go ahead, what you were just going to say.
Okay. Thus far, 30 years plus, we've had the Coal Mine Health and Safety Act. And for 30 years, people have still been dying with black lung disease. Now, everyone involved with this issue, Department of Labor, coal industry, UMWA, black lung associations, everyone knows what causes this disease. Yet no one does anything to eradicate it. We've gotten lip service from day one. We'll get lip service from here on out. I think that it's criminal what is being done to the coal miners, with everyone involved knowing what causes this disease, and no one trying to prevent it. That's where I stand with the Department of Labor. And Alexis Herman, from her own lips, said that it was criminal. Why isn't something being done?
One of the things I remember, Mike, hearing someone, I think it was the pathologist at the Blackland conference, the clinics conference, he said that when he was talking about new approaches, he talked about the medicine and stuff, he said that minds are dusty, and that's never going to change.
Never.
And so what do you think it is, if that's true?
How are you going to do anything at all? Well, we have laws in place, but MSHA only gets to inspect 4 times a year. Now, on those 4 days out of the year, mines are in compliance. On the 361 other days, it's Katie bar the door, every man for himself, because the dust goes on those other 361 days. And if you don't believe that, I got some swamp land that I'll sell you in the heartland of New York.
Okay, so there's clearly a problem when you just go for
Definitely.
4 times. So MSHA should be doing, and could you lead into
It's
this
not only
particular-
MSHA. I hold responsible management, the coal operators, who are supposed to abide by the law and keep these things in compliance every day, not 4 days out of the year, but every day. Now, 2 milligrams per meter cubed is too high in my estimation. It needs to be lowered. And according to Dr. Rasmussen, even at 0.9 milligrams, you will still contract black lung disease. And I could take that to the bank because I have total faith in Dr. Rasmussen. So, there again, even if the dust level is lowered, they're not even complying with the 2.0 milligrams today. So what good would that do? I mean, I would love to see it happen, but it's not going to happen.
So what has to be done right now?
I think more miners have to take responsibility for their own actions. I think they have to know what the laws are and comply with those laws. They know that there's supposed to be water on this machinery. If the water's not there, don't operate the machinery. If there's curtains not up for ventilation, don't operate the machinery. If you have a respirator available to you, use that respirator. I know it's cumbersome and hard to use. I know. I've worked with one on. And if you're under a strain and stress and your body's starving for oxygen, this respirator doesn't come into play very well. And then they have these Airstream helmets. I've never seen those, but I could just imagine what they might be to work in. You know, if you're standing still, that would be fine. But if you have a lot of manual labor involved, that Airstream helmet's going to be a cumbersome thing to work in. And you've got to clean up the environment. Don't put cumbersome equipment on the men. Their physical labors are hard enough without all this cumbersome equipment. Clean up the mine environment. Clean that up.
But do you think that with current technology, we really can?
I don't know. I think the more technology that's come along. First, we had the longwall miner. the continuous miner. It generated a lot of dust. Now you have the longwall, which generates even more dust. I think the more technology improves, from the way I'm looking at it, the more dust you're going to exude. So the only thing that I could think of would be robotics to keep the men out of harm's way. And with robotics, you lose your workforce. And when you lose your workforce, you lose your economy. And when you lose your economy, everyone suffers. So I don't know exactly what the answer might be.
What about, let's think about the Department of Labor and about MSHA in particular, and you said that, you know, they know it's a problem.
Exactly.
They're not doing, what else should MSHA be doing?
Good question. I know it all hinges on budget constraints, supposedly budget constraints, as anywhere in the government. But if they could implement all 20 of the suggestions that the Dust Advisory Committee came up with, I think that would be of great help. But how far have we gotten on the list of 20? Not very far. have we?
I'm not really sure.
No.
I only know about the ones that we deal with here.
So there again, it all looks good on paper, but there's men still dying at the rate of 1 every 6 hours, which is phenomenal. I mean, in what other industry would someone die every 6 hours and nobody check into it and try to stop it? Say, whoa, this can't happen. But it is happening. And it's going to continue happening because no one's going to do anything.
You mentioned some of the things that you'd like to see done. You talked about miners and the operators and MSHA. Anything else? I mean, what else would you, if you were looking into the future, would you say we need to do or I'd like to see happen?
I'd like to see the law enforced on a daily basis. I mean, let's quit playing with these men's lives and do something constructive. I mean, if I work in the mines till I'm of retirement age, I expect to enjoy my retirement, not suffer through my retirement. You know, and most men who work in the mines suffer through their retirements. I mean, that's a known fact.
One of the things that's about compensation it has interested me following the history of legislation for black loan is that, you finally achieved something in 1970, and then it seems like you were talking about your work more recently, but what can you say about the up and down with compensation?
It's been, what the 1969 Act started with was good, but it's been legislated out through amendments. There was the 71 Amendment, the 77 Amendment, the 81 Amendment, which all took bits and pieces of the 69 Act and made it less stronger than what it was originally intended. And that's the process that we're working with now. We're trying to keep what we have in place and to just get just a little bit more to help us. But they keep taking a chunk out of everything we get. And once they lessen the Act and the strength of it, you lose all your compensation and everything in toto.
So what would you say, compare, say, 1970 to now in terms of being able to get compensation?
Oh, it was, in 1970, it was readily available. People could get compensation, quite easily. But today, that's not the case. It's very, very hard to obtain benefits. We've had one miner in Kentucky that fought for his benefits for 23 years before he got an award. 23 years. And he was 82 years old and dragging an oxygen cylinder when he received his benefits. Now, what is this? If you're eligible, you're eligible. The problem is that we have the coal operators and their high-paid attorneys who fight this system. They will expend anywhere from $30,000 to $50,000 per claim to get this defeated in order not to pay out benefits. So, they have the monies to do that. We don't have that kind of financing. We'll never have that kind of financing, and they know that. They know that they have us beaten from day one. And they constantly have lobbyists on the Hill who, any time that we try for legislation, are up there trying to defeat it. We can't have paid lobbyists. We don't have that kind of monies. So, we're just a little guy, hopefully trying to help someone out, but I don't know how much help we have been, if any.
You mean the Black Loan Association?
Yes.
Well, are you really serious about that?
I'm serious. I mean, it seems like it's a cycle. We are using the same tactics today that we used 30 years ago. And needless to say, the operators are too. The same rhetoric that was out in the 69, 70 area is the same rhetoric that's used today. I mean, I don't understand. Why do we keep going in circles when we know what the problem is? No one's working together to eliminate it. I think that's the whole issue, that no one wants to work together to eliminate a problem, especially when profits are concerned.
Do you think it's possible for miners and mine operators to work together on this?
I think it's possible. I really do. If the mindset of the operators would get to where they would care more about the health of their workers instead of the profit that they reap. I don't know if that will ever occur, but that's what needs to be done. They need to get away from that profit venue and think, hey, this guy's got to live and enjoy his family after his retirement. But do they care about that? I don't think so. I don't know.
We've got
You
that.
know, I think Dr. Rasmussen kind of hinted at, oh,
Stand
this
by.
is supposed to be the truth.
Well, that's what I'm trying to give you.
Okay.
All right, yeah.
So the first thing, Mike, if you have any other comments about the players and the game, about who should have done something and didn't, you know, how things could have been improved.
Well, I think MSHA in the early 70s till, say, 94, when David McAteer took the helm of Assistant Secretary, that there were a lot of, how do I say this, dust fraud occurring, and there's still some going on today. But I think that some miners involved in some of the dust should have been notified because there was extensive levels of dust, you know, higher than they should be, which put those miners at risk. MSHA has that recorded, so why weren't these miners notified? You know. But I believe since David has taken over the head of MSHA, that there's been a lot of good changes occurring, and hopefully there'll be more to come. The Dust Advisory Committee was one, and the hopeful regulations to come through the Department of Labor, another. David is really concerned, I think, about the miners and where MSHA is going. I think he was truly the right appointment that President Clinton chose, and I think he could not have picked a better man.
One of the functions of him is education.
Right.
In education. Can you comment on?
Oh, I'm wholeheartedly for it. And the handbook that you guys just put out, I think is phenomenal. You know, dust, you know, what is the title of that?
What you can't see.
Right. That is a good booklet, and I praise you for that. And a lot of good information in there. MSHA's classes that are held, you know, teaching the miners about dust control and respirators, et cetera, are all good. Anything, in my opinion, that MSHA is doing currently as far as educating the miners is a plus.
Okay, so if you say currently, let's go back to from the time the act was passed till today. We talked about compensation to some degree. Let's look at the regulation and control of hazards within the mines. What has happened? Where have we gone? Have we gone anywhere?
I don't think I think we're working at a snail's pace, or we still may be working at a snail's pace. Dust control, they're trying to get a handle on that. I hope that can be achieved. I don't know.
What about the 2 milligram standard? You started to say something about that.
I think the 2 milligram standard is too high. I think it should be reduced. When the Dust Advisory Committee was formed, I was in favor of 1%. 1 milligram, I'm sorry. But like I stated, Dr. Rasmussen said at even 0.9 that miners would contract pneumoconiosis. So 1% is not even feasible. 1 milligram, I'm sorry. I think as long as you mine coal, you're going to have dust. And as long as you've got dust, you're going to have pneumoconiosis. This is my opinion. And more technology that comes along, like I stated, that there was the continuous miner, which eradicated more dust than the coal loader. Then you have the longwall, which is 6 times worse than the continuous miner. Now, what is technology going to produce after the longwall? I don't know.
What if the ventilation is correct and the water
Ventilation and-
systems are appropriate and they change the drill bits? I mean, do you think with the technology that's available, in terms of control technology, we can get below
The 2 milligram? I hope that could be achieved, but I can't really say for sure. You should have your ventilation in place, and you should have water on your equipment at all times. Now, I know for a fact that that's not always the case, because I've seen it done. I've even worked under conditions where it wasn't available.
So from the time you started working the mines yourself,
Mhm.
about 11 and a half years, was there a change?
I can't really say for sure because I was outside for a period of time. Yeah. But from the years that I was underground, I couldn't see a change. No. But yeah. Again, the miner's mindset, you're going to have to change that before they'll voluntarily go for x-rays.
Let's ask you about that.
Okay.
Are we ready? Yeah.
Because they're afraid it might,
So, David has announced this program of doing all these, I think like 10,000 x-rays, miners x-rayed, free x-rays in 3 states. What do you think about that?
I think that's a good idea. I think if the miner's mindset could be changed, though, it might help more, because a lot of miners won't participate in this program in fear that it may, down the road, reflect upon their benefits for black lung if and when they do choose to file. They probably think that it could be used against them in some way. So there needs to be more education out from MSHA about the whole program. And there needs to be more talk about the program in the local union halls and the Black Lung Associations, trying to get everyone involved in this so it could be a successful program.
Mike, I like what you said,
Is that program to x-ray 10,000 miners?
Does it have
but
a,
free x-ray program.
Okay.
X-ray program, whatever.
so I should pick up at,
You could say part of it, indicating that what the program is. Is that
Okay.
then?
Yeah.
You can blend that in.
okay, the program being the free x-ray program that MSHA has implemented.
Well, no, could you say that, the program to x-ray this, provide free x-rays to miners is a good idea, but there may be difficulty in miners participating.
So I started off wrong.
Yeah, just something like that.
Okay, the program that MSHA is trying to implement or has implemented with the free x-rays for an additional 10,000 miners in 3 different states is a good program. But if you have to change the mindset of the miners involved. Okay, is that good?
Is that okay? Yeah. Okay. One of the things that Pete gave me was this list that they had developed in Arlington about MSHA's actions to eliminate black lung disease. Are you familiar with all these? I'm sure
Yeah.
you're not. Why don't you look at it?
This is what David's done since he's taken office?
Well, what the agency has done.
Well, at his
Yeah, his direction.
direction.
I just thought maybe you might want to look at it. Is that what you were thinking, Pete? And see if there was
Yeah,
something
any
you wanted to
comments
comment
about the
on any
efforts
of
that
those?
our MSHA is trying to do?
Well, I haven't read this through, but is MSHA involved with the diesel end of this?
Oh, yeah.
That needs addressed. I spoke with the man in Pittsburgh when I was up there who worked as a diesel mechanic. But this is an outside job, not underground.
Mhm.
As a diesel mechanic, I believe he was from Detroit.
Yeah, we have a new proposal. We have proposed legislation it's in the comment period right now that addresses the health hazards of diesel.
And he had a lung transplant.
Yeah, we know it's a problem.
Yeah. But just think, if he worked outside,
Yeah.
and if you're underground with this equipment, plus the coal dust on top of it, what is this?
That'll be our next.
What is this? I mean, my God.
Okay, so maybe you don't have anything about that in particular, but I think Pete's suggestion that if you have anything that you'd like to say to anybody, be it miners, be it the operators, be it MSHA,
Okay.
this is your opportunity.
Okay, I would like to say to everyone involved in the mining industry that we have to work together. Miners, MSHA, Congress, everyone involved in the mining field has to work together in order to make it beneficial for someone to even go into the field of mining. I mean, if I were a young man today, I would not go into mining for any reason at all. If it could be taken into consideration, the elimination of diesel from mining completely, that would be another good thing. Because diesel is definitely a cancer-causing agent. And to put that on top of coal dust is a double whammy. Why subject anyone to two life-threatening diseases, one pneumoconiosis and the other cancer from diesel fumes, into one area, and expect them to enjoy their occupation and to enjoy their retirement? There's no way. When you physically disable a person and literally kill him, because that's what you're doing, you know that diesel fumes are no good. You know that they cause cancer. You know that black lung is no good, and you know what causes it. So why subject people to this? It's murder, and it's premeditated. Let's not get involved in murder. Let's all work together to eliminate this problem.
Okay, stop tape.
And two small kids when you know, were disabled by this lung disease, so that would be a good point, the impact of it.
Well, black lung disease affects the whole family, not just the miner involved, but it affects the whole family. There's, like when I was disabled, my children were 5 and 11. That's a young family, but my wife had to take over a lot of the chores that I did. She was the main groundskeeper, so to speak. She took care of the grass cutting, the trimming of the lawn, all of those aspects she had to pick up and do heavy physical chores where I could no longer do those. And it gets worse every day of the year. I mean, her duties increase. And I don't know about you, but if you've ever lived with someone with lung disease, they're not very pleasant to be around. I mean, they have shortness of breath, and they have frustration dealing with that shortness of breath. And sometimes they take it out on the people they love the most, which is wrong. I know it's wrong. But, that's just the way that the animal works. My children had to take up some of the aspects, too, of things that I couldn't do. And my oldest daughter, bless her heart, when she comes in to visit now, still gets out the weed eater and trims around the home place because she knows that I can't do it. And with her mother working, that makes it even harder for her to do. So we have to hire that out, too. I can't keep up maintenance on the house. I can't keep up maintenance on the car. I can't even wash my car. I have to have that done for me. It's just a whole issue that your family sits around and sees your condition worsening. There's nothing they can do. And you know there's nothing you can do. So it's a bad situation for everyone involved.
How do your kids react when they realized you couldn't do all the things that you...
Well, the youngest one really, she was too young to even, 5 years old, you don't think too much about that. But the older one at 11, I think she knew, and I think she picked up slack right then and there. She just jumped in and tried to help out as much as possible. And she's still doing that, like I said. But that makes me feel less of a man for that, because I was used to doing all this, and I have to sit back and, watch women do the work that I normally did. And that's not good either. It kind of affects your self-esteem. So I appreciate what they do, but I don't appreciate that they have to do it. So.
What about the things you couldn't do with your kids?
Oh, that was frustrating too. I mean, you couldn't play with your children. I couldn't even play with the dog. And I have a 9-month-old granddaughter now, and I can't even pick her up to play with her. I mean, it's very frustrating. And I think she realizes, even at 9 months, that there's something wrong with Papa, you know, and she'll sit and pull on my oxygen tubing, you know, and I'll look at her and she'll let it go. She knows that she's not, you know, she might hurt me or something. So I think everyone, even the dog, believe it or not, realizes what's going on. She used to, when we would come back, you know, go out and come back, she would run up and, you know how dogs respond to people. Well, when I walk in now, I'm so winded that, you know, she yelps and cries, but she won't come up to me anymore because she knows I can't reach down to pet her. So she knows. And she'll get in my lap and just lick on my hands because she knows that I'm not what I used to be. But anyway.
Do you blame anyone or anything for your situation?
No. I knew of the hazards of mining when I took up the job. My father tried to keep me out of it. He warned me not to go into mining. But a young man at my age, I was 23 and newly married, and I had came back from Indiana after getting laid off from a job out there. So I was in need of a job and a place to stay because I didn't want to stay on the family, a newly married man, so I took up a job in mining, knowing full well what the aspects might be. So I don't lay blame anywhere, except with the coal industry who know well what black lung would do to people.